He's just about ready. Yeah, he's ready. Okay, keep me honest.
How's everybody doing? Are we staying cool? Oh my gosh, it's so warm out there.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get it started with welcome everybody out to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. It's a beautiful sunny day out there. Nice and balmy. So we're going to start.
It's a dry heat.
It's a dry heat.
Mostly.
We're going to start the song with This is the Day. We'd like you to stand up and join, clap along. Feel free to get the energy, and here we go. Going to get it going. B flat. Let me find my tone. There we go.
This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Sing that with me. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is a day to be seized, yeah. A day I can feel my spirit set free. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day all my dreams come true. Can feel the Spirit working its way through. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it.
All right. Welcome to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Reverend Clyde Goings, and I'm glad you're in here in this cool building with us. So, and being safe in this heat right now. So, we are glad you're here. So, I want to just make a quick announcement that the blue team won the Survivor game. The blue team won, and they did a good job. They did a good job, but they won. All right, so it was a great time. It's over now, and but we had a great time. We had great food. So thanks everybody that participated and helped set up and everything else. It was really wonderful. So, all right, and want to also remind everybody that Reverend Karen's class is on Thursday night. It starts at 1:30. On Thursday afternoon, and it starts at 1:30. Sorry, 1:30 to 3:30. This thing called you, and so it's still open to if you want to join the class and participate. So again, this Thursday, and then if some of you may or may not remember that we're doing a Wednesday night book study. So we are almost to the end of the Science of Mind textbook. There's some ladies that's been with us at the beginning, and we looked at when we started. We started in January of 2018. Yeah, every Wednesday we've been meeting, going through the Science of Mind book, and so we're going to finish it up this year, which is very, very exciting. And then, but I want to plant a seed right now, so hopefully I'm going to start nurturing it and watering it, and let's see if it grows. But next year so once we finish the book this year, the next year we'll start again, and we're gonna do Living the Science of Mind book. We're going to go through that textbook. So again, it'll take us at least 2 years, I think, if I remember correctly, to get through that book. So anyways, every Wednesday night at 6 p.m., we get together and we really dive deeply into the spiritual principles and what we believe. So, all right. So thank you again for joining us and coming together and fellowship, and also in remembering the truth of who we are. So I want to start off by saying our vision statement together. So if we can say this together. We are a loving, joy-filled community honoring the many paths to God as we learn and live the science of mind principles. And so it is. So if you can just sit back, open up your hearts and minds for the Bradford's beautiful music and Reverend Karen's wonderful message. Thank you.
So take a deep breath as we connect with the divine.
I will make a quiet place within my heart. I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my mind, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, no.
I will make a quiet place within my life,
And I will wait upon the
Lord,
wait upon the Lord.
I will make a quiet place.
So as we rest in this quiet place, this place of stillness, this place of love, of openness, of infinite possibilities, we recognize that in this quiet place, not only within us, but within our community, within the four walls of this space, that divine presence is right here where we are. We are never alone. We're always guided by that divine wisdom. We're always loved and nestled in the arms of that love, of that loving presence of God. Every person that we meet, every experience that we experience serves one purpose, and that is to remind us of our truth, to remind us of who we are, that we are that individualized expression of God. So as we move into this day, we just recognize that truth. And we remember that we can always go to that quiet place within to remember that truth. That quiet place that goes with us everywhere that we are and right where we are always. And so I know as we move into this service that Reverend Karen speaks from her heart with that open consciousness of that divine spirit guiding her, guiding us to live the life that we want to experience. And I know that the Bradfords are singing to our hearts every Sunday as we bring in that joy, not only into our community, but it radiates out into the world. We are that individual light, that individual expression of God. And so I know that life is perfect and always unfolds perfectly. So as we move into this day, we just give thanks for knowing this truth, knowing that we are loved, knowing that we are guided, and knowing that we are expressing love. So I just simply bless this service, bless this day, and bless the world. And together we say, and so it is.
Summertime and the living is easy. Fish are jumping and the temperature's high. Oh, your life is rich and abundance surrounds you. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. Every morning you're gonna rise up singing, and you'll spread your wings and you'll take to the sky. And when the morning comes, there ain't nothing can harm you. With loving kindness and spirit to guide. That's my honey. Summertime and the living is easy. Fish are jumping and the temperature's high. Oh, your life is rich and abundance surrounds you with loving kindness and spirit to guide. With loving kindness and spirit you, God. Thank you.
Oh, now that was something. And her daddy's good looking. Hey, thank you, Bradfords. Oh my goodness, that was so fun. You just made me miss the guitarist in my living room. Woo, he used to do that kind of thing all the time. I love hearing you do that, Rod. Thank you. Good morning. Wow, welcome to the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living, and you're welcome for the air conditioning. We're so grateful. What a week. What a week, and what an amazing evening many of us shared. Last night at our Survivor fundraiser. And so we are trying to segue from surviving last night into thriving this morning. Thank you for the way you adapted the lyrics a little bit for us, because it really, really fit exactly what I'm intending to say today. So that was really lovely. And the title of my message this morning is Your Spiritual Bank Account. So I'm probably not going to take this in a direction you're expecting, but I wanted us to have an opportunity to talk about something really important that I found in reading Dr. Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of this teaching, this philosophy. And Dr. Holmes said in his book, How to Change Your Life, he made this comment about a spiritual bank account. Learn to draw on your spiritual bank account. It's important to identify yourself with greater supply. And then he has this quirky little way he sums it all up, and he says, release any thought of lack. So we're invited to turn to this supply of goodness in our life, our well-being, our vibrancy and vitality, and all the divine gifts that it is the Father's good pleasure to give freely to us, and identify ourselves with that flow, with that supply, with that movement of life on this universe as we observe how life works, to kind of connect to that and understand that that's the flow of our life too. And then he says, and release any thought of lack. Now, that's important because it's a bit of a reversal in our thinking. You know, I mean, just from the very idea that last night we were playing all the Survivor games, and now we're looking at thriving. We're looking at sort of both the infinite and the finite at the same time, because we live in it's like we do this dance between worlds. We're physical and we're here in form, and our life matters, and yet we're so much more than just a body and or a family, or the house you live in, or the car you drive, or how well your air conditioning is pushing air. So the message this morning is learning to, it really sort of a nudge for us to shift the way that we identify ourselves, to get a little bit, more friendly, dabble your foot in that spiritual side of how life works. And I believe that it's challenging for us to look at this idea of releasing any idea of lack, because we live in a world where, and these current times that this population of humanity is living, we have so much emphasis on conservation, don't we? We want to save, our nature trails, and we want to conserve. I just notice in my own house, I don't use any more electricity than I need to between the hours of 4 and 7 in the late afternoon, because I get rewarded for not running my laundry in those hours. So we're conserving. We are, especially in the desert here, we're very conscientious about our most valuable resource, water, and so we have it on our mind, and you could say that it sort of keeps us in that finite place where it feels like there's not enough. And so it's important for us to every so often to remember the opposite of that, that there are things in our life that are overflowing and inexhaustible in the way that they are supplied to us. So we always want to go back to truth. We always want to take a moment to breathe and to realize how freely air circulates through our body, to notice the movement of life and the way that we give and receive and we participate in the law of circulation in so many ways. We even conserve, I notice for myself, I know this is relatable. We even conserve in the heat when it's 120 degrees. Nobody really wants to go to the grocery store, and I mean, not to mention how hard it is to get ice cream home from the grocery store when it's 120 degrees out there. I have one of those freezer bags now. I didn't used to, but I do now. So, there's a give and a take in the way that we relate to all of this. And of course, we don't want to be wasteful in ways that we are wisely conserving our own energy on a hot day, or using the sources of power in our homes and all those other things in our water. So this morning, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the spiritual bank account in order to remember how easy it is to tap in to things that are not physical and yet are freely given. Things that fall under that term of the grace of God, the joy of life, the experience of beauty, all those beautiful divine qualities, love. The movement of love on this planet is essential for the very nature of our living. And so we want to take advantage of that and release any thought that there could be lack or limitation in any of those things. Holmes always said, if you're not feeling enough love in your life, then show up and be a more loving human being, because we are the conduit for that movement, for that exchange. Amen, for sure. Thank you for that, Rod. You not only play great guitar, that was really excellent timing. So this is a big reversal of thought, because lack and loss are just a part of the human experience. I often think of that scriptural content in Ecclesiastes after the book of Psalms and after the book of Proverbs, where all the poetry and the songs in the Bible are sort of right there in the center. And the book of Ecclesiastes is that, which has also been made into famous songs, but for everything, there is a season. For everything, there is a season. There's a time to be born and there's a time to die. It's just the natural nature of the movement of all of life, that particular cycle. There's a time to plant, and then there are times to pull the things from that you've grown from the earth and to harvest. There is a time to tear down the old and a time to build up the new. There is a time to weep and laugh, and there is a time to mourn, and there's a time to dance. And what we learn as we live our lives, you get to be enough cycles of life. You live through enough seasons in your life, you begin to realize that everything comes to pass, that there's always another season, and that for every storm in life, it will be followed by peace. Every disturbance will settle, and it's the nature of that ongoingness of eternality. But we all worry about losing things, don't we? I used to have this dream that it used to be a recurring dream that I'd lose my purse, or that I'd go to pay for something and I'd dig in my purse and my wallet wouldn't be there. And we've had that experience. I easily put my wallet back in a different place than if I'm not paying attention at the checkout stand. And those are really scary feelings. We don't like that sense of loss or pending loss, and we certainly don't like losing loved ones or relationships that end. Because it's such a normal part of life, and I wanted to tie it in with this idea of tapping into that spiritual bank account, no matter what it looks like in terms of loss and limitation. I was looking for a good story that wouldn't be I didn't want a story that was too much of a downer after we had so much fun last night. Thought we should carry the fun over in today, right? So I found that I'm so pleased that I found this perfect story of a great, great is probably a bad word, but there was this art heist. There was a robbery of a great museum in Fenway, in Boston, at a museum called the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, and a Rembrandt, along with a few other famous paintings. In 1990, these great works of art were stolen from this museum, and they have never returned. And they don't expect that they will ever see that artwork again, because stolen art is hard to. What do you do with it? You know, you have to. If you want it for your own private collection, that's one thing, but it's pretty hard to get rid of afterwards. So there's this Rembrandt painting that is fairly well known. I know nothing about art history, and I don't know. I love to go to art museums, but I notice I'm kind of picky what I like. You know, I don't like everything, because you can't. There's just so much in a museum to see. The way to go to a museum is to wait till something catches your attention and spend time in front of that. You don't try and see everything, I'm told. And so there's this great Rembrandt. Oh, it's so gorgeous. And it has, I'm going to show it to you in a minute. And it has Rembrandt painted it from the scripture about the time that Jesus calmed the storm at sea. So the painting is sometimes called the Calming of the Sea of Galilee. And it's a really tumultuous looking moment where the storm on the sea, you see the disciples and Jesus in this boat, and it looks like doom for sure. Don't look like it's going to end very well. And oh my gosh, Rembrandt was genius at capturing the emotion in the people that are on the boat, the movement. But the reason I like, there are a few Rembrandts that I know I really like, and the reason for that is what he does with light is crazy. So this picture is really stormy and dark, but there's some source of light that is coming from the one side of the sky, and as the waves of the sea are coming up and making, foamy waves are crashing over the top of the boat, and the boat, it looks like it's ready to capsize, and the disciples are in the boat, and they're in all kinds of peril, and you can see that the sail has torn away at one place, and there's somebody at the bottom of the boat that's retching over the side, and it's scary, and then somebody standing in the middle with this, and Jesus is painted in the picture. Now in the story, and by the way, this parable is written in Matthew, Mark, and the book of Luke. Is that right? Matthew, Mark, and Luke, I think. Not John. Yeah? I'll just say it with authority. 3 books of the Bible, that it shows up in the 3 of the gospel books. And they say that Jesus was sleeping. So here's the guys. They've been preaching to people. They've been doing their ministry work, and they had a long, hard day, and Jesus healed a bunch of people. In fact, I think he raised somebody from the dead, and now they're going to go to the other side of the lake. He called it the lake. We're going to go, get on the boat. We're going to go to the other side of the lake, and they're tired, and Jesus immediately goes to sleep in the back of the boat, and then they're out on the lake, and then this storm kicks up. It's this huge squall, and all this drama is happening, and Rembrandt captures this exciting moment, and the disciples are going, Jesus, wake up, Lord, Master, save us. Surely we will peril. This is a terrible thing. You can do all this. And Jesus wakes up and he's like, what's the fuss? And he calms the sea, and everybody lives happily ever after. Short version. Although the parables only give always in the parables, there's a whole lot we're making up and filling in. So what's really interesting that I did not know before I did this research is that Rembrandt frequently painted himself in the scenes of the work he was painting. Isn't that fascinating? He would paint himself, and so when you look at that, you can put the picture up anytime, Kendra. Okay, yeah, you can put it up anytime now, and I'll try and stand still. So I really urge you to go home and find it on Google or something so that you can see it close up. And there are several different renditions of it. Even the Rembrandt ones, some look like they've been refined so you can see the details better. It is so great. Look at the use of light that he has there. So you see a little bit of blue sky, a lot of dark on the other side. You can see the images of the people. You want to see it closer up. It's so good. And Rembrandt is standing in the middle, and then they say he has his hand on his head, and I can't quite see it from here, but I did find it in other paintings. Now, the reason Rembrandt would put himself, even in biblical scenes, this is not the only scene from a Bible story where Rembrandt painted himself in the painting. But they say that he was a very skilled storyteller in the way that he could tell a story in a painting. And so this is one of those paintings you could study for a long time without any idea of any education around art or art history. And you could see that there's something he's really trying to communicate in the way that he did that. Each person has a high drama going on in the telling of this story. And they say that one of the reasons that he included himself in the paintings is that it would help it make the story more real for us as individuals, as we're looking at it as the person appreciating the piece of art. He wanted us to be able to relate to what happens in the way that he's trying to capture it. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot more than just paint and brushes and canvases. And in this case, we can assume that there's a message here about how we move through our lives and how we encounter the storms of our life. That there's something very universal in the same way that a mystic, a spiritual mystic that's writing something deep and meaningful, or the way a poet would use words, or a musician might compose a piece. Even in the way that Kathy changed the lyrics to make them so applicable for what was about to be said today for this message. There's something in that person, when that person gets in that zone, there is some kind of contact with the divine that goes beyond the words. So the author or the artist or the musician, they're conveying something they feel, and for any of us who are appreciating that work of art, if we get in that zone, we have then found that same divine energetic space of having an experience of whatever the painter or the composer was experiencing in that moment. And in that universal way and that universal message of storms, what we know is that storms pass. And not only do storms pass, but this storm passed because Jesus calmed the waters. He calmed the storm, but he also calmed the spirits of the frightened men. And so we see that peace returns when we can calm that energetic and make a shift in the way we're moving through whatever it is. So what we know is storms happen, and storms happen in a very literal way in terms of the weather, and storms happen in a figurative way as well in our own lives. Now, if I ask you to think of a real storm, some bad weather you experienced once in your life, notice what comes up to your mind. It's the first, tell me the location where you were now the first memory that pops up for you of a time you were in a really bad storm. Just tell me where you were. Okay, hold on. We got, it sounds like it's all Midwest. Let me start with Mark. Oh, Massachusetts. Well, not far from where this painting hung for more than 100 years before it was stolen. Say it again. Kansas City, Minnesota, Chicago. Right. That's it. So, and you remember those storms, right? We remember those storms because there's an upset as we're moving through an experience like that. And we get some whoppers here when we're so blessed to have monsoon. We can have some pretty heavy monsoon storm. We can have some flash flooding right here in Arizona, but this storm that always comes to my mind in my own life was a time that we were on the Central Coast. We had a home there, and a terrible squall came in off the ocean. And it was about 8 o'clock at night. It had rained all day, and we were surrounded in these huge, mature pine trees. And a tree right across the street from us went down, and it made this cracking, slow-motion sound. And when it hit the ground, it was one of those times where you kind of felt the house come up off the foundation, or at least it feels like that. And it was so scary. And on its way down, it took a telephone pole that took then a string of telephone poles, and so there was no power on the hill anywhere. My husband stood up and stretched and went, "Well, that's it for me. I'm going to bed." And I went, "What do you mean you're going to bed? You can't go to bed now. Don't go upstairs. It's dangerous. There's trees everywhere." And he said, "No, really, I'm going to bed now. There's nothing to do down here." Oh, that storm that was howling through the house, and I was terrified. And he really did go up to bed, upstairs to bed, and go to sleep. Now, I'm worried he's going to die. I'm most certainly going to perish as well. But I ain't not going up those stairs. And so I eventually am pacing and trying to figure out what to do with myself with no electricity. It's very dark. It's very loud and scary. And you're kind of waiting for the next tree to crash, And so I made a little nest in this bathroom that was downstairs. I couldn't even stretch out. I had to curl all up. And I'm laying on the floor in the bathroom now. One, I'm mad as you-know-what at my man for leaving me down there alone and scared. But 2, I'm terrified. We're going to die. It's certain. And I'm laying on that floor in the bathroom. And by the way, for those of you that were here last night, this would have been close to that time from the video that you saw. I'm so sorry. Never again will we show that video here. Oh no, more blackmail. More blackmail. Well, at least you know now where to turn it off, not to keep letting it play. And I love you, so you're safe. Thank you, I love you too. I don't like that video much, though. But we were all young ones, right? So I'm right in the middle of the story. So I'm on the floor. It's certain doom. I'm terrified. I can feel my heart pumping all through my body everywhere. And suddenly I have this thought, like, girl, you got some skills here. Why are you so scared? What are you so scared of? Well, a tree went down across the street. I know, but you've got some skills. Why do you need to be laying down here in this bathroom? And there's spiders down here. You should be scared of spiders. And suddenly, as I'm trying to sort of humor myself, I hear this passage from A Course in Miracles in my head that I did not memorize. I didn't even know that I knew this passage. And the words said this: "When you are afraid, it is a sure sign you're trusting in your own strength. When you are afraid, it is a sure sign you are trusting in your own strength." And that made me laugh. I rejoice in the recall, in the fact that those words were given me at a time when I needed them. and that I could receive them. And no, I didn't calm down and go upstairs and go back to bed, although later my husband did come down to check on me. That was kind of nice. But it shows me that we're never alone, and that when we make the tiniest space, this tiniest opening to receive the comfort we ache for, it will be delivered. That we can receive that. So at the end of this scriptural account of the before the seas get calm. Oh no, Jesus calms the sea, and he calms the men, and then that's where they sometimes pluck into the scripture. It'll say that passage. Jesus says, "Oh ye of little faith," or some variation of that. Now, when we hear that, we think, oh, I wasn't faithful, I did something wrong. But what if the words mean more than that? What if it's more like a question like, what is it you were afraid of? What if this is the invitation for us to take a breath and to see that in that amazing presence of one who performed miracles, there's this opportunity for us to sort of hear the voice of the Master say to us, why are you afraid? Right now, what is going on in your life? What right in front of you that has frightened you? And is there another way of looking at everything that's going on while you are waiting for this storm to pass? So it always pulls us back to that place of asking ourselves, what am I believing? Because when I'm so fearful, my heart is pumping everywhere. That is a way my body is designed to save me in a crisis, right? To help me in a crisis, but it doesn't help me calm down. So I can use my mind. I can imagine that this great master teacher is there calming the storm, that reminding me it's going to pass, and that I too can take a breath and I can begin to look and re-examine whatever situation it is that I'm moving through at any given time. I personally feel most afraid when I feel like I'm alone. But we are never really alone. When we're out of sorts, we tend to push other people away from us, either by our behavior or our a desire to not have anybody too close. All of it comes together with that way that we separate ourselves from the whole. We are disconnected, but ours is the choice whether or not we will, as Holmes said, will we release that thought of lack or limitation or separation or distance or lack of love, whatever it might feel like, whatever words we might choose to describe it. How can we re-examine that? How can we see it in another way and soften our hearts just a little bit and to breathe and to allow other people to connect with us in such a way that we can feel that way, that we are never separate. We are never really, really separate. When I'm afraid in the bathroom in a storm, and I'm thinking it's the end of the world, it's almost as though, when I hear those words, when you are afraid, it's a sure sign you're trusting in your own strength. It's almost as if I have this vision that I thought it was my responsibility to make sure he doesn't get a tree to fall, doesn't get squished by a tree, and that the neighborhood is safe, and almost as though it's mine to carry, my load to carry. Do you ever do that? Do you ever catch yourself taking on the loads of everybody around you? Even though it's not a task necessarily that they've asked you to do, but you find that you're worried about your loved ones? Are you find that you're concerned about some of the choices other people are making that might impact you in a way. And pretty soon you're worried about what you're hearing on the news. You're worried about the environment, whether or not we're conserving enough of this or that. And you put more and more and more weight on your own shoulders until it's hard to stand erect. And then if you fall, how do you get up with all of that weight weighing on you? So we find our way to get back to that place of spiritual grounding where we recognize there is a power and a presence that is greater than we are, that is stronger than I am, that is more powerful than anything in the universe. And it is the presence of love. It is the presence of spirit itself. It is the way that life works. Listen to this quote from Dr. Ernest Holmes. This is a quote on that very parable about the calming of the sea. And I found that and actually there are a whole bunch of parables in the Science of Mind textbook, but this one I found from the book, This Thing Called You. Jesus understood spiritual law. If we don't get anything else, I would love for us to understand that the greatest gift Jesus brought was that he understood law. He understood oneness. He understood that the Father and I are one, and he tried to teach it to everybody else, and then we just made him God. And we've missed the whole point that the message is that there's something divine about each of us as individuals. So Jesus understood spiritual law. He trusted in this invisible source of his being, and so can we. Jesus was not frightened by the storm. He was not frightened by the fears of all the men in the boat with him. He could say, peace. Peace to both the men, and he could say peace to the storm, and things calmed when he did. Holmes said, that is God calling unto God. Peace be with you. We have a passage over our entryway right there in the foyer. Peace be unto you, stranger. All are welcome here. Peace. Jesus is, the whole point of that parable is for us to remember to trust in those things that we can't see, to remember the power and the presence, and to continually remind ourselves that storms pass. They come and they go, and then there's peace again. But as Holmes said in the opening quote, we have to identify ourselves with a greater source, Tap into that spiritual bank account. Those gifts are given freely. You know, it is not about learning to be braver. It is not about, we don't fail because we weren't courageous enough. I didn't lay on the floor in the bathroom because I lacked what was that word I used last night? Nothing? You got nothing? I let you watch the video and you got nothing? Freakish stamina. Wow. Okay, well, that's it. Freakish stamina. Thank God I remembered. Yes, we all have freakish stamina when we need to, or in certain environments. Maybe not as much as I get sometimes, but not necessary. You'll be fine. But it's not about lack. That's where we're turning it around. That's the big reversal. It's about learning to trust in that strength that is readily available all the time in inexhaustible supply, and all we have to do is get still and notice. I think it helps to ask. I think the very fact that the parable says they were trying to wake him up, he's sleeping through a storm and they're trying to wake him up. Wake up! We're all all going to die. And then he wakes and calms. The tree fell in the forest, and I got hysterical. And then I realize I'm trusting in my own strength, and that's what a waste. I could never keep a tree from falling, and I don't have to. So sometimes we find ourselves alone in a storm. And when you do, the next time you feel like you are alone in some kind of a storm, whether it's figurative or literal, I want you to remember Rembrandt. And imagine that you can paint the story in your own mind, and that you can change the characters, and you can color the storm in any way you like, but include yourself in the painting. See in your mind's eye yourself, and realize that you are the artist. You are the author. You are creating your own life. You are telling the story, and you can do it any way you want. How will you depict that power that is greater? Because I think Rembrandt clarified that perfectly in his, there's no question that was a scary storm. And yet, the calm comes and is always there. So, notice, and also I find it helpful to appreciate that when tragic things happen, I love appreciating how people come together to help each other. So remember, we need each other, and that's a great, great blessing. I think that as I conclude the message this morning, I want to just say this, that each of us has this opportunity to learn some of the things that I think Rembrandt knew and portrayed and probably desired for other people to get a little feel for. And that is, number one, put yourself in the middle of the story. Number two, don't pretend it's not stormy. How do we say that? How do you say that, Sue? It's this isn't hell and I'm not hot. It's not hot and I'm not here. Sometimes you really are in hell, but you can get out. You can just keep walking. So don't pretend it's not stormy when it is. Acknowledge your fear. Don't bury it. Don't pretend you're not scared. Acknowledge it. Look it in the face. Dr. Holmes used to always say, look the discordant fact in the face. We don't pretend, we don't wish it better. And finally, remember, always, always call on that power that is greater than you are. And that's what I wanted to say today. Take a deep breath. Just relax where you are seated, whether you are here in the sanctuary or in the comfort of a private space. And just feel the love of God surrounding you. Because right here, right now, in this very moment, the full presence of God abides. And I feel and I sense that presence of God, and I recognize it as that activity of life. So many words have been spoken. And pictures have been painted, and ideas have been seeded. And in the middle of all of that, we feel this presence of love. It is God's sweet love. It is a creative force in the universe that compels all life to come into existence. I sense that presence of love, and to know that love is the most powerful essence of anything in the universe. It's a soothing and healing feeling, for it awakens an intelligence within us, the very wisdom of our physical body that knows how to breathe our lungs, to move that oxygen through our body, to get rid of any wastes, and to rejuvenate our being. From head to toe, we feel the healing nature of life within us. We are quickened into that expression of wholeness. So whatever that wisdom is within us, whatever that wisdom is, that intelligence that knows how to heal what ails us, we know that the words of this prayer are activating that movement of life within our own bodies, within the bodies of the ones that we love. And so wherever there is any concern for a fuller expression of vibrant, vital living, we invite that activity of God. We feel the energetic movement of life itself, and we become a part of the healing force on this planet. So even as we sit and allow ourselves to sense the grace of God streaming toward us, we shift our position and we allow ourselves to be a vessel to receive. We become an instrument that Spirit can use for high and worthy purposes. For there is work to be done. We are called to be on the planet at this time because there is work to be done. There is love that needs to be communicated. There is healing and there is holing, and there is a restoration of life on this planet as never seen before. And we are a part of that process of healing. So I am grateful for that. I am grateful for spiritual community where we can join together, no matter what the weather conditions may be, that we may sit safely in the sanctuary of our own minds, in the consciousness of spiritual community, and know that we are well fed, that we are loved, and indeed that there is a power that is greater than we are. So I say thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, Infinite Spirit, for this renewed wisdom, for this activity within our bodies that we feel with great vibrancy, and for the way we know that healing ripples out in every direction for the benefit of all. And with a grateful heart, together, we release these words and say, and so it is. Amen. Amen.
Grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look and every face I see is love reflected, shining back to me. I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and peace that gratitude brings. That's why I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have.
All right. Thank you, Bradfords, and thank you for being with us today. So now's the time to celebrate the abundance of our lives and the abundance of our community. Just want to remind you that our website, wvcsl.com, is where you'll find all of our information for all of our activities. And then we also have a newsletter. So if you want to receive the newsletter, we have these green cards that you can fill out. It's in the bookstore area, and you can just drop it off in one of the tithing boxes, and we'll get you added to our email distribution so you can hear about all the wonderful things we have going on. So also want to remind you that we don't pass around the offering plates. So we have tithe drop boxes on the way into our fellowship hall. So when we're eating some good food, you can drop it off there. You can drop it off on the way out in the back of the room, or also in the bookstore. We have drop boxes. So we appreciate all of your blessings and your gifts. So let's say our giving affirmation together. I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, and so it is.
Please rise for our last song.
Ready?
Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Sing that with me. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. I'm thinking about my problems. I'm living now. I'm living now. And I ain't gonna worry about the future. I'm living now. I'm living now. So put your hands up if you feel like having a good time. Put your hands up if you're sharing love with all. Raise your cup if you're hopeful for tomorrow. Put your hands up if you're ready to have some fun. Now sing it. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. One more time. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Woo!
All right. I almost forgot one more thing from our Survivor Festival last night. We still have some leftover crickets. So we'll be serving crickets, so please join us after service for some crickets. All right. So let's say our closing affirmation together. Repeat after me. I release the idea of lack
I release the idea of lack.
and recognize all the abundance in my life.
Recognize all the abundance of my life.
And so it is.
Oh,